Life has many stories. Here's one that might just change how you see yours. I had this friend. One evening, the lights went out and we decided to take a walk to pass time. Somewhere along the road, we got to a quiet spot and sat down to chat and observe the area. Right across from where we sat was this street joint where extras from cattle meat and fat were being grilled over fire. You know the one I'm talking about. That type of roadside meat that gets people stopping mid-walk just to grab a bite. You'd see all kinds of people, security men, nurses, students, workers, everyone lining up to get some. The moment my friend saw it, he shook his head and said under his breath, "Whenever I see people eating that meat, I feel like throwing something at them." I looked at him for a moment and just laughed. Me, I'm a fan of that grilled meat. So naturally, I asked him, "Have you ever tried it before?" He said no. That was all I needed to hear. You see, the disgust wasn't from experience. It was from distance, from ignorance, from never having actually given it a try. Somehow, I managed to convince him to try it just once. He bought a portion, took a bite, and I watched his face light up like a bulb. He was stunned, couldn't believe what he'd been missing. Weeks later, I saw him again, and he confessed to me how hard it's been not to spend all his money on that same meat every time he passed by. Funny story, yeah? But here's what hit me. This was just grilled meat. Imagine the same kind of rigid opinion applied to something more serious. Something deeper. Something that shapes your worldview, your choices, your career, your beliefs. Imagine how much of your life you might be missing out on just because of a bias you haven't even tested. So let's unpack this properly. Have you ever asked yourself why you believe what you believe? Why do you turn down certain opportunities? Why do you look down on certain people? Why do you think you don't belong in some rooms? Or that some lifestyles aren't for people like you? Are your answers based on experience? Or just assumption? We like to believe that our principles are rooted in strong foundations. But most of the time, they're not. Most of the time, they're hand-me-down opinions from family, school, culture, religion. We inherit them without questioning and defend them like they're divine. But here's the truth. Until you've lived something, you don't truly know it. You're just repeating what you were told. Experience is a better teacher than assumption will ever be. My friend was anti-meat because he had never tasted it. The moment he did, his opinion flipped completely. And it wasn't because I forced it. It was because experience does something to you. It confronts your prejudice. It rewrites your ideas. You see, when you go through something for yourself, when you actually taste it, you come out with your own conclusion. You're not just following the crowd anymore. You're not just echoing the noise. You're speaking from truth, your truth. And that's different. That's when you start living, not just existing. We inherit fear dressed as wisdom. You'll be shocked how many of your non-negotiables are actually inherited fears. Fear of failure, fear of standing out, fear of rejection, fear of being seen, trying something no one in your family or community ever tried. So we build fake standards to protect ourselves. I would never work in that field. I don't hang out with people like that. That's beneath me. But deep down, it's not that you don't like it. It's that you're scared to find out that maybe you would like it. Maybe it'll challenge who you think you are. And that's scary for most people. Most people are barely existing. But existing isn't living. There are people in this life who are successful by every metric society gives. Money, house, degree, respect. But if you sit with them, listen closely, you'll hear the truth. They're not happy. Why? Because they didn't choose that life. That life was chosen for them. They followed the script: go to school, graduate, get a job, marry, raise a family, retire, die. They did everything right and still feel wrong. Because they exist, but they don't live. Don't be that person. New isn't dangerous. It's just unfamiliar. We say no to things not because they're bad, but because they're different, unfamiliar. We reject new ideas, new foods, new people, new paths because they're outside the comfort zone. Even what we term as bad is bad not based on our experience, but because we've been told they're bad. But here's something to chew on. Everything that is normal now was once strange to someone. There was a time people thought mobile phones were madness. A time they feared online banking. A time they mocked tech startups. Today, we can't live without them. So what's your grill meat? What's that one thing you keep side-eyeing and rejecting, even though you've never actually tried it? The system doesn't want you thinking too much. Let's be honest, systems, institutions, even religion sometimes, they don't want you asking too many questions. They prefer obedience, conformity, but your life is your responsibility. At some point, you'll have to stop blaming the system for how your life turned out and start asking, what do I believe? What have I tested for myself? Am I living or just following? Make your time count. No, you may not be the person to launch the next iPhone. Maybe you won't be the person who discovers the cure for a major disease. But you can still make your time on Earth count. You can still live a life that feels like it's yours. You can still decide today to do something different. Not because the world says so. Not because your parents said so. Not because tradition demands it. But because you want to. Because it makes you come alive. So before you say never again, ask yourself, have you even tried? That's the thing. Sometimes you just need to taste it once. Just once. And it might change everything. Like my friend, who went from mocking grilled meat to planning his weekly budget around it. What if your life is just one honest try away from shifting? What if all this time, the only thing standing between you and your next breakthrough was you? So reconsider your non-negotiables. Not all of them, but at least the ones you've never tested. The ones that were handed to you, not chosen. Because living is about discovery. And if you're not discovering, you're not really living.